Hey kids, welcome back to Onstage, Offstage. I am your host, George Sapio, and this is episode number 193, August of 2025. Our guest is Nick Maynard. Nick is a playwright from the UK who has worked professionally within the performing arts industry for a number of years, both commercially and academically, creating and facilitating over 300 different stage shows as writer, director, or producer. His play, Things You See in the Rain, is the second of our 2025 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion themed plays. Things You See in the Rain by Nick Maynard. The cast is Andy, played by Greg Thomas, and Chris, played by Donald E. Baker. The setting? We're in the middle of a rainstorm.
I don't get it. It's raining.
Exactly.
It's wet.
Some people only get wet. Others can feel the rain.
Deep. Deep. The only good thing about rain is that it eventually stops.
You cynic. Have you never seen Singing in the Rain, Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Shawshank Redemption? Where's your sense of romance?
It's waterlogged at the moment. Can we go now?
Not just yet.
Is this a thing of yours? Standing in a deluge?
Maybe.
The next time, let me know, and I'll bring a brawly with me.
People miss the point. They think that the rain's sad, like it's God crying or something. But it isn't. It's cleansing. It's the thing that brings about new life. In the ancient world, the gods of rain were the fertility gods. They were some of the most powerful deities in the whole of the firmament.
If you say so.
It's not me that says so. Hadad, the ancient Semitic fertility god, the original false idol, worshipped as a golden calf in the book of Exodus. It was them they chose to worship way before Christianity.
Okay.
He was sometimes known as Baal, meaning owner or lord. That was the real name of Beelzebub.
The devil?
No, a false idol. It's the same god as in Norse mythology, Freyr. His name also meant Lord. It's believed that the Viking priests that used to tend to him were gay.
And did they stand out in the rain, catching their death?
Probably. Don't you think it brings you closer to nature?
Not really.
You need to get into it more. Just let yourself be present.
It's not really working for me. Can we go back inside now?
Just a little while longer. The clouds are starting to clear. If we're lucky, we might get a rainbow.
Yeah.
The ancient Greeks said that the rainbow was a bridge between heaven and earth. The Vikings called it Bifrost, the bridge to Asgard, home of the gods.
Like somewhere over the rainbow.
Exactly. In the Bible, the rainbow was a promise between God and all flesh upon the earth that destruction would never happen again.
And you believe all that, don't you?
Why not?
Because they're just stories.
And stories have got to come from somewhere.
But that doesn't make them true.
And it doesn't not make them true either. If you want a rainbow, you have to have rain. If you want a story, you have to have a reason for telling it.
Yeah, they didn't have science, and so they made stuff up.
Cultures developing thousands of miles apart, separated by seas and oceans, all come up with the same conclusions. What's the probability of that?
Much higher than the chances of there being a real rain god, a big dad.
Hadad.
Whatever. They're still only stories. And until I find a pot of gold at the end of one of those rainbows, it's still just going to be a meteorological phenomena caused by refraction, reflection, and dispersion of light and water droplets.
And isn't that still magical?
But it's science.
Isn't that just another word for magic?
No, it's a word for science.
It stopped.
Good, good. I'm soaked.
See how fresh everything feels?
Yeah, I'm cold. I need to get these wet clothes off now.
But no rainbow.
Not this time.
Can you remember the last time you saw a rainbow?
Not really.
I do. You stopped seeing them when you stopped believing in them.
Rainbows are science, not fairies at the bottom of the garden.
So, when was the last time you saw a rainbow?
I don't know.
When you were a kid?
No, I don't know. Rainbows aren't things that you either believe in or don't believe in. They're physical things that exist in the real world.
But you can't touch them.
No,
So, how do you know it exists?
because you can see them.
And you can see a rain god manifesting itself in the rain. It's no different.
It's very different. It's very different. One is science fact and the other is made up fiction.
But it's all about belief, though, isn't it? You believe in science, so it's true to you.
And you don't, so gravity doesn't happen.
Maybe. Don't you believe in anything you can't prove?
I believe in us. That's not science.
Unless you believe in chemistry.
Surprisingly, I do.
End of play. That was Things You See in the Rain by Nick Maynard. Cast was Andy, played by Greg Thomas, and Chris, played by Donald E. Baker. Nick was kind enough to come in via Zoom, of course, and give us a few moments of his time to talk about his play. The fact that the lines are so sparse and concise was impressive because all of a sudden there was a lot being communicated, even with few words. And I was greatly intrigued, and I finished the play extremely quickly. It's not a long play, but somehow there's just so much encompassed in it. Is this typical of the way you write?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Because when people say they want a 15-minute piece and I send them something,
Mhm.
it usually looks quite short on the page. But directors have said that it needs the space around the words because there is so much information that it needs that space. So I would send out a 7-page script out that would last 15 minutes, where other people would send a 15-minute piece out, 15-minute page piece
Yeah.
that would last 15 minutes. It's just that it is packed. And I think that is indicative of my style of writing.
Yeah, it's interesting to find something this concise. Where did this come from? What sparked this?
I've been doing a couple of pieces on the meaning of love and what love was and how people define that. I remember when I was doing we had to write an English essay, I think, at school, and it was we had to write it on love, and my essay was about the non-existence of love. And I think back then that's what I believed, and obviously as I've grown older, I do believe in love.
Yeah.
And I've also got friends that are quite scientific and don't believe in anything supernatural and don't believe in anything that you can't quantify. But yet they believe in love as well, which has always fascinated me, that somebody that's not spiritual or over emotional can still consider love to be a thing, although it can't be quantified as such other than a feeling.
It's an interesting dichotomy. How do they explain something like that?
Um, everybody talks about instinct and about chemical imbalances,
Yeah,
or the rush of hormones and endorphins, and I think that's obviously that's true, but it's not very romantic.
It's interesting the way we have to romanticize, or this particular subject, of course, is romantic in its basic essence for folks like myself and I guess you who believe in that almost paranormal existence of an entity that cannot be weighed, cannot be sized, cannot be quantified, and yet so many of us spend our time doing exactly that, writing love stories and describing what it feels like and what our spirits go through in pursuit of this one other person. Between the science and the reality, there's got to be a middle ground somehow. I mean, all these hormones and all these crazy chemicals, they do play a part, but it's interesting to find what makes them start. Where did Andy and Chris come from? Are they based on anybody?
Um, I'd like to think so. My partner's called Andy, and
Okay.
I was originally my name's Nick, but that's only because my mum's friend's baby was born first, and she got first dibs on the name Chris. So basically, it's me and my partner. I'm the emotional one. He's the one that is very very cold. He's a bit of a
Analytical, maybe?
sociopath.
Wow, that makes for an interesting relationship right there.
Oh yeah, I write about it all the time.
Oh. Ooh. What does he think of your work? What did he think of this piece?
He hasn't seen that. He doesn't really like the theatre, so he comes and supports when I force him. So he doesn't tend to read the work. He'll come every now and again, and then I remember why I don't invite him to things because, yeah, he, yeah, it's not his thing. So he lets me
Yeah.
do my thing. I let him do his.
Well, one might venture that it's a good separation of abilities there.
Well, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I'll say because my wife and I are both lifelong theater professionals, and we have that in common. But it would be very hard for me to imagine what it would be like if she had absolutely no sense of what theater was or didn't like theater. And because it is such a crazy vocation. I wouldn't say profession because I don't know that many people who make a living at it, but to sit there and spend so much time in these non-quantifiable realms to create these false realities. How does one explain that to someone else?
Well, for me,
Yeah.
it's the idea that you said vocation is very, very true. When I studied A level, one of my practitioners that I studied was Artaud, the French director, writer, and visionary, and he said that actors should have a mystical sense of vocation, and that's the thing that I've always carried on. And as a teacher, that's what I taught my students, that it would take about 10 years for you to make a living out of it, but you need to go into it for the art and for the art's sake, not necessarily for financial gain, because that's not going to happen. Not as an artist. I think it's very difficult. If you do make a living out of it and you do become famous, then that's great. But that shouldn't be what you strive to do. Otherwise, that's not going to happen. You get it because of your unique vision, not because you wanted to be famous. If you want that, then there are reality TV shows now that will do that for you.
Yeah. I know people who listen to me when I talk about the joys of theater and how much I love it and what I've done. And some of them will say, but can you make a living at it? And the operative word there is can, as opposed to do you make a living at it, which the operative word there is, oh, absolutely not, but I'm going to spend most of my time doing it anyway. And they'll ask why, and I'll say, just because this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I love this play. And the fact that they're just standing in the rain talking about all these esoteric things, the Asgard, ancient Greeks, somewhere over the rainbow, all these fantastical things meeting at one point here. And what happens at the end? Talk to me about the ending of this play, because I really want to discuss this with you. According to you, what happens?
For me, what happens is that they sort of end up on the same page with that idea of you accept somebody else's viewpoint and you're okay with that. And harking back to my relationship, we agree on a lot and we
Mhm.
disagree on a lot. And he allows me to have my views, I allow him to have his. And yeah, and when we get into those discussions, it's best not to have those for too long, because I'm not going to convince him to change his mind and vice versa. And we just try and find a common ground. The way that our relationship works is that intrinsically, deep down inside, our core values are the same. It's just we express those and see those being played out in a different way.
Yeah. The fact that you get down to talking about rainbows, whether they're real or not, to quote, aren't things that you either believe in or don't believe in. They're physical things that exist in the real world. And Chris says, but you can't touch them. And Andy says, no. Chris says, so how do you know it exists? And Andy replies, because you can see them. And to have that small measure of evidence to prove that something is worth believing in. I'm not even going to say because it's real, because we believe in a lot of things that aren't real. And some people would put love in there. Okay. It's interesting the way we hang our spirits and our beliefs upon concepts that we can't put in our pocket and we can't box. And how much of this goes on faith and instinct, which again brings us back to the theater profession itself.
Yeah, but I think it comes back to the human condition as well, which is what theatre is about. It's about exploring that. And I think a lot of who we are and what we are as a species is based on feeling.
Yeah.
Like we're mammals, so because we feel, otherwise we would be, I suppose, reptiles. We've evolved this feeling and this understanding and this empathy that we pride ourselves in. We call it humanity, don't we? And we are human. That is the thing that we think believes sets us aside from other creatures because of that.
Is it the ability to imagine other worlds other than our own? I mean, do you think lizards imagine, what if I wasn't a lizard? What if I was, what if I was Beyonce or something like that? It seems to be limited to our particular species for good or ill.
Yeah.
To have that capability of imagination is an extremely powerful tool.
I believe so. Like somebody once told me, the thing that sets us apart is that we know our own demise. We know that one day we will die.
Yeah.
And other animals don't necessarily know that. I would argue the fact that if you send an animal into an abattoir, it will know that it's,
Sure, yeah.
its end is nigh. It will sense that. But the idea of, we're sitting here without any physical danger, we know that one day we will die. And like you say, we've got this idea of abstract thought that we can think ourselves into other worlds. And other situations that aren't necessarily the one that we're in now.
Yeah, it's quite the double-edged sword. When did you start getting into theater? What moved you into this amazingly complex vocation?
The truth is that when I was very young, and I'm thinking of maybe about 2 or 3 years old, my parents took me to what's probably best described as a happening that was being conducted by an international company called Welfare State. So Welfare State International are a performance company and they were based in the little village that my parents and I were living in.
Mhm.
And they were having this happening on New Year's Day, and I was taken there, and it was the only thing that I can remember that ever scared me. I was never frightened by horror films. I never had nightmares or reoccurring dreams, except for this one thing. And um, it scared me. And I think I wanted to own the thing that scared me. And by a turn of fate, I ended up doing A levels at the same college that they once taught at. My tutor was the guy that had gone to university with Welfare State International and worked for them. And then when I went and got involved with youth theatre, the youth theatre site was the site that Welfare State used to inhabit before they moved. And so in the end, I've actually owned and become master of the thing that scared me the most. And that's why I started in theatre. It was a compulsion to not be scared anymore, I think. And obviously since then, I've hopefully scared others in my wake.
Is anything about theater still scary? Because it is one of these, like I said, you can't quantify it, and it's all subjective. And you produce something or you write something that you believe in, and yet you send it out into the world where it becomes subject to innumerable judgments and opinions and feedback. And is there any is there anything about this that gives you a feeling of trepidation? Should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? I mean, it's shouldn't I be doing something a lot more sensible with my life?
Oh no, I got over that a long time ago. I think my parents used to say, "Why can't you get a proper job?" Until I became a teacher. So I became head of performing arts at a large college here in the UK, and I did that for quite a while. So that was my proper job. Um, but do I get scared? I get scared for the arts in general,
Yeah,
the way that they're not funded, the way that they're very vulnerable. That I know that within the US, there's the censorship
yeah,
of certain groups, and that's done by although you've got freedom of speech, like people's freedom of speech, then sort of like tries to quash other people's freedoms.
yeah.
So I'm acutely aware of that. Um, about my own work, because I'm really, really lucky that I can write and do write every day. And I've got my back catalogue for the last 10 years is probably about 90 different works. And that's full length, short length monologues. And when I send it out, I've often likened myself to a Victorian father. I've got many children. If some of them die, it's okay. I've got others to replace.
Wow, that is such. I don't even know where to go with that one. Yeah, the situation over here on this side of the pond is more tenuous, I think, than it's ever been in our history. Not that the arts over here have been funded to a point where we could be possibly satisfied with the amount of money that's being thrown at us, because in my own mind, it seems like a dedicated effort to quash any ability to imagine or to think critically. And that's what theater does. That's what the arts do, is they give your place, your imagination and your spirit fertile
but I
ground to explore.
but I think that's really crazy. Um, in the UK, our third biggest export are the entertainment industries,
Yeah,
the arts, and the US is probably about the same. The cultural output of our countries and the wealth that they generate for our countries
right.
um, is colossal. the message that goes out in literature, in cinema, in theater, in fine art throughout the world probably does more than a gun and a tank and an invasion in changing minds and hearts
Yeah.
and spreading the freedom of speech, democracy, and all the good stuff that we like about our countries and our societies. And that's the crazy thing, that we should be supporting this. In the end, it's cheaper to put on a play and send that around the world than it is an army.
Very true. And I think each in their own way, theater is, well, going back to originally being scared at theater, uh, scared at the concepts that might challenge one's particular status quo. One of the reasons I'm doing this whole series on DEI plays this year is specifically that, because I don't like having my ability to send a challenging idea out into the void where it can be appreciated or viewed by others as a threat. It's one of the things about the arts is that in its way, it is a particular threat to your sense of safety, because if it makes you think differently, then you call into question the values that you've been adhering to for such a while. And right now, there is such a screaming backlash at certain groups, LGBTQ groups, and others, that they are literally under siege and they are literally being attacked. And to be able to express one's views and have that criminalized, yeah, no, I'm not sitting with that. And we need to just keep punching back at this sort of thing and doing our art in any way necessary.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being an ally as well, because you count your friends in times of trouble, not in times of in
Yeah,
times of bounty. And it's really important that that voice and that dissent is heard and maintained. The situations within our countries don't last forever, because we do have democracy. We can vote these people out, and we can get something hopefully better one day.
that's if they still have
So
elections, because right now in our country, that's going to be a very questionable thing, whether or not they have them in the first place and whether or not all those votes are counted. Uh, yeah,
we
it's risky
yeah,
right now.
it will happen. And I don't think that your nation will stand for the fact that they don't have the freedom to vote. That's why you guys decided you wanted to be a nation under your own flag, and not part of the United Kingdom anymore.
Yeah,
It's the thing that the tenet that your country was built on, and people will remember that, and people will rally through that. I'm sure of it.
that's what
You
I'm
know,
hoping. Yeah, I'm in the meantime, if it doesn't work out, will you guys take us back, please?
well, our country's rather full at the moment.
Yeah, I know, but yeah. Besides being a writer, you have directed, and I noticed that with your play Boyography, which went up in July of 24, uh, you directed it as well. Is this the first time you've directed your own work? And compound question, how do you feel about doing so? What are the differences between directing your own work and having somebody else take your words and your vision and channel them through their own particular filter?
um, so originally, I was more a director than a writer, and that's what I
Okay.
became known as. So I was a director, and I did a lot of writing and directed my own work. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to be known as a writer rather than a director.
Okay.
So I stopped directing completely, and that was really, really difficult, because I'd sit in rehearsal rooms, and for the first 6 months I was getting up and doing my thing.
Mhm.
And in the end, the director sits back and lets you do that, because it's about ownership and about your vision and things like that.
Yeah,
And that the whole point of theatre is it's a collaborative art, and I wanted that next layer of interpretation. So I stopped doing that, and I I'd offer to come to the first read through, which I thought was important, just to
Mhm.
explain jokes and maybe subtext that might not be obvious at first
Right.
read, and for cast and director to ask questions and then step away from it. In some cases, I never even did that. I just came to the final performance to see what interpretation and what had happened to my baby. And sometimes it was successful and sometimes it wasn't. Most of the time, because I identify as a queer writer and that's what I write about, unless it has a queer director, sometimes a lot of the ambiance of the piece is missed.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's what I was finding. So I've got my favorite directors and people I like working with because they get me and they understand the work straight off without having to do too much research. Or it's a wonderful experience having those people do my work. But that's not always the case. And I've just got to go with it. In theory, if I've written it properly, then there should be enough there to make the piece work and not upset or destroy the piece. And if I go and see it and I think, oh, they've missed it and completely ruined it, then I've got to go, that's on me because I haven't written it tightly enough. I've allowed that interpretation and that accident to happen. But on the whole, do I miss directing? No, because it's really time consuming. As a writer, I can write pieces, send it off. Somebody else can put all those hours in order to produce that piece, and it frees me up to be able to write more stuff. So that was the trade-off. With biography,
Right.
that was a pet project. I recently set up a company called Rough Boy, and our first piece was directed by an up and coming director here in the UK. And we'd been working on this piece for a number of years and said one day we'll put this on. So that was my present to that promise. Then we did a short tour of another piece from a different company, and then biography was my piece and my present to myself. And so that's why I came out of hiding and directed for the first time in ages. And everybody said, "What's it like being a first-time director?" And I had to say, "Well, I'm not. I've had a back catalogue of about 350 direction credits up to that point.
Wow.
So I wasn't a novice."
That's an awful lot of credits.
Yeah, I like to keep busy.
Oh my God. Oof. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because you don't seem that old, and I'm sure you must sleep and eat at some particular point.
Very kind of you.
Yeah. Well, we have to be kind to each other at this point. Nick Maynard, thank you so much for being here and talking about your exceptional play, which we are thrilled to produce and to have had the opportunity to meet you and speak with you.
Likewise, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for, like I said before, thank you for being an ally. And it's nice to talk to what feels like a kindred spirit who believes the same thing about theatre that I do. So thank you so much for that, and it's been great.
Thank you. Hey kids, thanks for listening to Onstage Offstage. Onstage Offstage is produced monthly, and all of our shows can be found at onstageoffstage.org and also on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoy what we do, please recommend us to your friends. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at OnOffStage. And if you are a theater artist with an upcoming project or interest, or know of someone in the theater world who'd make good chat, by all means, send us a note at onstageoffstagepodcast@gmail.com. Our theme music is Don't Worry, Be Frappy by the composer Max Dickinson. You can find a lot more of Max's magnificent music on SoundCloud. I'm George Sapio. Thanks once again for listening, and please be kind to those with whom we share this rock. And as always, happy theatering to all of you.